All right. So this month we're focusing on the founder before the business because we strongly believe that the quality of the founder determines the quality of the business. So karibuni sana. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We hope that you've had a good work day and that you are enjoying your evening. We also hope that you have a pen and paper so you can take notes, or a tablet, or a phone, or a gadget. You have a place you can take notes, you can think through stuff. In this space, we do a lot of that. So what we're doing is building from the inside before we build the outside, because before strategy and scale, there's the founder. We grow to the extent of our systems, not ourselves. We can be big, some of our biggest bottlenecks. So at the beginning of the month, we focused on purpose. What do we need? And then we're looking at courage and wise decisions and clarity. Last week, we're talking about how overcoming sales fear. And we talked about how it could be an internal wound that could be stopping us. Things people said, things that happened, things we have now come to believe as true. And then today we're talking about, do we pivot or do we pursue? So in this space, that's what we seek to do. One second, let me. There we go. My device is showing me interesting warnings. So in the space, what we seek to do as the African MSME Collective is really to ensure that we can empower SME leaders and even not just business leaders, but if you have a desire to grow where you are, whatever it is you're doing, to grow smartly, lead boldly, and scale sustainably. Lead boldly includes leading yourself. So we're building businesses that will thrive from setup to sustainability. Knowing that the time frame between setup and sustainability could be a couple of years. So we have those candid conversations and we enjoy this space absolutely. My name is Chesubire Talitwala, and I work very closely with Joe Mokoko, who's my co-founder. Sometimes the chief whip, depending on the situation. Sometimes I'm the chief whip. But what we do in this space is we challenge you, whether it is to use your voice intentionally or to set up smart sales strategies and to thrive in your business. So, whichever it is you're looking to do, we hope you have found the right space and we will be sitting together for just about 75 to 90 minutes to one, capture an incredible topic, but two, also have personal growth goals post this topic. So, what are we talking about today? We are talking about, do you pivot or do you persist? Why? Very often we need to discern the direction we need to go without one, losing ourselves, two, losing our businesses. So that's what we're talking about today. It will be a very quick conversation. Keep your pen and paper close. If you have questions, please feel free to use the chat. We ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions. And I am looking forward to seeing your responses in the chat. I also keep my chat bar open. So whenever you make a comment, I will see it almost immediately and we can proceed. So, do you pivot or do you persist? Let's start with a reflection, which is how we kind of always start our sessions. Ask yourself, what is shaping my choices the most? Pressure or clarity? And this is the question we started with last week. And it's a persistent question for this month. We are not really changing our starting reflection because my hope is the thing that was stalling you last week isn't the same thing that's stalling you today. All right. So we'll ask this question for a second time running. What has been shaping my choices the most, pressure or clarity? And if I slow down enough to see clearly, what might need to change? Now, this was our closing reflection. So, does anybody want to share with us what they found out about themselves last week? Did somebody find? You can put it in the chat. I'll read it for you. What is shaping your choices the most? Let's see that in the comment section. Is it pressure or is it clarity? When you go to make your decisions, what makes you choose? Oh my God, it's not working. Oh my goodness. Or is it, this is the way I need to go? Let's see those responses in the chat. What is shaping you? I hope we have more response. All right. Come on, guys. I'm waiting for responses. What is shaping your choices more? Pressure or clarity? I used to be shaped a lot by pressure. I have moved a lot more to clarity simply because I'm asking myself many more questions. I'd like to see one or two responses. What is shaping your choices most? Pressure or clarity? Or, okay, I think both for now. So there's a measure of pressure and a measure of clarity. Fantastic. Another response, then we can proceed. I'd like to see two or so responses, then we can proceed. Pressure or clarity? Weighing, think through it. The last choice you made, the last major move you made, what shaped you more, pressure or clarity? Pressure. Okay. One of the reasons why we ask reflective questions is so that you can see where you are, not to stay there, but to begin to chart the way forward. So I like that you've said pressure because that allows you to know how you need to build from now. All right, so let's jump in. Why does it matter that we are thinking through pivot or remain? Why does this matter? You see, many of us reach a quiet crossroads, even in our workplaces. The crossroad is never a big blaring sign. All right. When we are wondering whether we should stay or we should move on, whether we should pivot or persist, it's never a loud thing. It's never a red stop sign. It's not a trumpet sound. Many of us, it's on the inside. By the time it is visible to people, it has been brewing inside you for a long time. Sometimes that revenue is inconsistent. You can't really tell how much you can make a month because this week we sell, next week we don't, and you're in this inconsistent cycle of revenue. Sometimes your energy is unstable. Today you're really excited, tomorrow you're like, say, just close this job. Say, just leave this place. Say, just. So your energy is yo-yoing. But the reality is the work still matters. You love what you do. You're in maybe a growth phase. Maybe you're in a position that this is what you've always wanted to do. But the joy is less. It is thinner. It is more fragile. You're somewhere asking the question: do I push harder? Do I press in? Do I press on? Or do I just get out? And so it forms a question: do I persist or do I pivot? And I'll never forget when I was in the event industry. I had done it for so many years. It was my dream job. I had wanted to stay there, but I would wake up every morning thinking, Sha, again. Hmm. Then I'd wake up and I'd do it and I'd enjoy 20% of the day, but 80% of the day, I'm literally pushing myself through it. Now I know it was the fatigue and the pivot I should have done was look for a partner. At that point in time, I was so tired, the only thing I could think of was to shut down. And there were doors I was praying to open. Do you know the industry shifted into what I was waiting for like less than 18 months later? But I'd left. I'd completely left. I'd hung up my boots. I was tired. And this question of do I persist or do I pivot was so real in that season. Eventually, pivot happened because my health had a little bit of a crisis, so I needed to get out. But if I had thought through it and had gotten help, I think we would still be there and we'd be talking about different conversations. However, by pivoting, I eventually found the other side of the coin where I really needed to be. So the pivot was not a mistake. But at that point in time, I pivoted because I was fatigued. And you see, this moment matters because unresolved indecision erodes your confidence, erodes your focus, smashes your consistency, and destroys your trust in your own judgment. And I don't know how many people have been here. We don't fail because of one big bad decision. We just drift from too many delayed ones. I should have let go of that person. I should have removed that product from the stock. I should have kept better records. I should have built a deeper relationship with my bank manager. There's so many things we delayed doing. And then at the end of the day, it is the crashing effect of all those delayed decisions that cause us to fold or fail. One of the biggest decisions many of us don't track is, do we have enough clients to sustain our work? Do enough people feel what we do is a big enough problem for them to solve, or to have us solve for them. All right. Are they willing and able to pay? Will we chase this 200 shillings for 5 years? It means then we are chasing minuses. Is it even worth it? And those are the questions we need to learn to ask early. So what we're working to do in this session is to help our founders and our leaders to pause long enough to see clearly and decide from wisdom, from data, from reflection, rather than from pressure. Some of us jump into businesses because, oh, I see Onika is doing well. I see Rose is doing well. And I don't do the math. I don't know what support system Rose has behind there that keeps her going. So I pivot there and it doesn't work. The other struggle many of us have is you could stay too long and it crushes you, or you could pivot too often and you're always starting from scratch. For instance, we have been building for almost 3 years now. If we decided to move to a different industry now, wherever it is we're going, we will go and start from scratch, which means it will take us another 2 to 3 years to build. So then, having built what we've built, how can we use what we have to create an amazing and useful product? Who can we partner? Who needs what we have so we can bring it together and collaborate and all of us generate income, create greater reach, or have greater impact? So those are the questions I would like us to be answering today. All right. So this is not a motivation pitch to never quit. I have quit enough times. I have changed directions. So I'm not telling you stay the course even if you're dying. No, it's not a motivation pitch. It is not a justification to abandon responsibility. That's not on the table. Or a shortcut to clarity without reflection. Doesn't happen. Or a declaration that pivoting equals progress. Sometimes when you pivot, it actually takes you backwards to build forward. So this isn't any of this. What we are doing today is working through a framework of discernment, not reaction. We want to be the people who make decisions from data or data, whichever it is you say. It's a leadership conversation about direction and not drama. It's a way to separate identity from outcomes, and it's a moment to re-anchor your decisions in truth, not in noise. This is what I like to say to business leaders. When your business fails, you are not a failure. It is the business that failed. Did you make a few decisions that could have gone different? Yes, it doesn't make you a failure. Otherwise, I would be a failure. I'm on business number 5 and 6. But what happens with each business is that I start from experience. So the learning curve on certain things is shorter, and the depth to which we go is broader and more effective. And we know now we need to collect data. We need to do 1, 2, 3, 16. All right. So we're looking for frameworks. And what we will do is share some guiding thoughts that you can go and expand. And if you feel we need to expand them deeper, come back and let's have that conversation. All right. The reality is that sometimes the bravest decision is to stay. Sometimes the wisest decision is to change. But whether you stay or change, it requires a crazy level of courage. Oh, sometimes in staying, you're staying and you're not making money. Or you're up against people who say, if you continue with that, we can't be friends, or I'll leave. Yet you know that you know that you know that you need to stay. So you're not going to close from an emotional push. You are going to close from a clear logical decision. Sometimes staying is not beneficial. So then you have to change, but change to what? Change how? Change where? That's why I'm saying both of them require mad courage. It takes a lot to stand and continue a business, even in the face of uncertainty. So I have a friend who, just before COVID started, she was doing fantastically well in her job as a salesperson, and she was just tired. So she resigned. She resigned January 31st, and we went into lockdown shortly after. No, she'd resigned. Feb 28th was her last day. And then we went into lockdown March 16th. All right. So to the average eye, that was madness. But what she was able to do, because they were in lockdown, but her husband was in medical manufacture, they were able to pivot and add additional lines onto their production line that generated for them so much income. Because one of their products was an antihistamine. They had been trying trizexing sanitizers, and was a third product. I don't remember the third product, which were all three critical products that were useful during the pandemic. So her choice to change and leave was at that opportune moment. However, in the same time span, the events industry took a big hit. There are businesses that have not recovered. I was talking to one of my friends in the industry who said they know business owners who had literally lost their mind because they were used to certain levels of work, certain levels of income, and suddenly, in a blink, on Wednesday, you had tens of millions of shillings you would be earning at the end of the month, and on Thursday, you're out. There's not a coin coming in. You have a large workforce. For some of them, there was no turning back. They ended up closing. Others pivoted. I know a young lady who went from general planning and she's now built a production business. Started how? By shifting to live streaming. Some didn't survive because if you're purely focused on tents, chairs, and tables, and now functions were down to 50 people. I have a friend who was in the design world. Since COVID, she has reorganized her business, but she's also moving out. She's only doing a few core things as opposed to running a full production house. Whichever you choose to stay or change, you need courage. And courage comes from knowing where you're going. So remember we talked about purpose 2 weeks ago. We said the cost of purpose is when purpose isn't clear, you compare constantly, you chase affirmation, you feel busy but unfulfilled, and you drift towards seasons without discernment. So this is what we're trying to overcome when we're saying, do we pivot or do we persist? Because we are driven by purpose. So we must stay on course. So when you have that in mind, before you pivot or you persist, you go back to why do we exist? Are we actually functioning in our place of purpose? Are we doing this because it is what is best for us, or are we just chasing affirmation? If you are still with me, let me see you put a PP in the comment section for pursuing purpose. If what we're discussing is actually, hitting the spot. Excellent. I can see the PPs coming. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So what are the key steps we'll take? And in this category, we will be looking at 3 or 4 things. Here are some things to think about when considering pivot or persist. Thank you. I see your responses. 1, we must understand that difficulty alone is not a sign to pivot. Sometimes difficulty is the way to tell us, yeah, shift needs to be done, but let's do it differently. So difficulty doesn't automatically mean pivot. Let's say you're studying architecture and you get to a very difficult topic that you are struggling with. It doesn't mean drop the course. What it probably means is we need to study more. So which part of the study do you need to do? Do you need to do more design work? Do you need to do more physics, more geography? What is it you need to do? Because every meaningful build includes resistance. It has sometimes some seasons of slow traction. It may have skill gaps and it has learning curves. And scripture is consistently showing that growth is preceded by pressure, not ease. We don't sit there twiddling our thumbs and grow automatically. We grow by putting our hand to the plow, doing the work that is required. We grow by focusing on what will get us there. So the question is not, is this hard? The question is this hardship producing growth or depletion? If it's producing growth, then we continue, we stay the course. If it is depleting, then that is where we must pause and assess. So just because something is difficult is not a signal to pivot. Many of us say, oh, I want it so easy. So that every time something gets hard, you change. Every time something gets hard, you change. So what happens with the reality that your audience changes their opinions and their attitudes every year? Are you going to change businesses every year, or are you going to put in the work to be consistent and connect to your audience? Again, some struggles are formation. They're teaching you this is what we need to put in place. This is the system we need. These are the habits we need to build. Others are refining. Of these 6 habits, the number 4 has a gap. So, how do we improve it? What do we add to it? Others strengthen what we can carry. So when you look at a struggle, ask yourself, is it formative, refining, and strengthening, or is it full of misalignment and red flags? Because when there is misalignment and red flags, then this is a call to re-examine direction. But the differentiator right there is wisdom. You have to be able to assess, evaluate, and understand what is before you choose the way you go. So difficulty alone is not a sign to pivot. It has to be coupled with something else, right? Persistence is obedience to clarity, not to stubbornness. Some of us stay there because we want to prove to people that we took the right path. You are not there to be stubborn. You are responding in obedience to the signs that is there. So it is powerful when anchored. It is also powerfully deceptive when erratic. Okay? So healthy persistence looks like you're committed to the problem. There is a consistent problem in the market that you know you have the solution for. So your commitment isn't just staying the course, it's because you are working out how to tweak the product to answer the question perfectly. All right? You are remaining teachable about the method. So sometimes what we have wrong is the method. Maybe we're saying, oh, let's bring people in and have them in conversations for 3 hours. And we keep pushing and people are diminishing and they're saying, please shorten it to 1.5 because that's all the time we have after a long day. So maybe you can do 3 hours once every quarter and 1.5 consistently max. But if you can keep it to 60 minutes, even better. We're remaining teachable. We are adjusting execution without abandoning the vision. We say in this space, vision, you write in ink, tactics, pencil, so that when the market shifts, you shift with it. So that when your audience shift or your customers shift, you shift with them, right? But if you're sitting there ignoring feedback, resisting change, oh, what will people think about me? How do I start again? Confusing effort with effectiveness, that is unhealthy persistence. You have to be clear why you are staying the course. Does the data suggest that you stay the course? And so remember in our previous conversations last year, we said there are multiple data points. How many items you're selling is a major data point. How often people are coming back to buy, if they're even repeat customers, that's another data point. How often they come back and they say, we appreciate this. However, if you went this way, it would be even more useful. Data point. How your team feels about the work they're doing. Data point. What you feel about your work every day. Data point. There are so many places you can collect data. But when you collect data and you do not reflect on it to give you good information, because you translate it into information, you collect data, then you translate it into something you can understand. You are setting yourself up for mechanical leadership, burnout, resentment, frustration, collapse, and eventually you'll walk away. Because endurance is not blind, it's designed to be guided by insight. Your insight is from both what you feel and what you actually experience. So you will collect data. Remember, we said sometimes it's we just don't feel this job. So why is it you don't feel it? What has changed? What has shifted? What can we or must we deal with to get out of there? Now, if we are not dealing, reflecting, assessing, and using our data, We'll just keep running like a hamster on the wheel and we'll get tired. I will get angry and we'll start snipping and snapping at our teams, and our teams will get tired and they will get angry, and then they will start snipping and snapping at the customers, and you know what happens when you do that to customers. Then you begin to say, these are the rules, you must follow them. We don't bend rules. We don't. And what you find is now it becomes a problem internally. Whereas a little reflection would have gained insight that would have guided your next steps. So persistence is obedience to clarity, not to stubbornness. All right. Number three, pivoting has to be a strategic adjustment. It's not an identity crisis. It doesn't erase your calling. It doesn't say you're a failure. It doesn't erase your obedience. It doesn't erase your past investments or your past success. Pivoting simply says we are shifting our positioning, aligning to our audience, we're changing our delivery, we're shifting our revenue model. And many times when we are struggling about pivoting, we are wondering, what does it say about me? It says you're remaining connected to your customer base and agile. So many of us pivot how we serve long before we pivot what we do. You see, who I am and who I am called to serve with remains a constant. The numbers may fluctuate. I work a lot with small business owners and professional leaders who want to shift. Maybe what changes is your sector, but we work in the finance space with some of our clients. We work in the agribusiness circularity space. We have worked with individuals in multiple platforms. Why? At the bottom of it, we always look at how are you functioning as a founder and how is it affecting your business? And sometimes we've had coaching sessions with coaches who are like, I just need more sales and marketing. But as we dig, your team doesn't even understand the product. So what you need more of is team support, because your team are probably the ones who are struggling to sell because there are things they don't understand that you do with your eyes closed. So in that case, what you're doing is you would be refining your delivery because your customers are in contact with your team. So your teams are your delivery mechanism. You could be looking at your revenue model saying we sell in this kind of batches, this kind of numbers, but we are seeing a decline here and a rise here. So the pivot is to understand why this one is rising, how sustainable it is, and adjust to that. There's a young lady who I met in December when I went to do, I had a service that she delivered to me. And in our first conversation, she was talking about, I want to leave this industry and start this. And my first question to her was, what's the data around it? So then she says, I've been trying it on the side and it's actually giving me more income than this. And then I want to add this and this and this to my collection. And she had this magnificent plan. So I asked her, when do you implement your plan? Can I come for the same service in January? She said no. This was December like 29th. We're having this conversation. So I said, okay, but I wanted to refer you to so and so. She's like, it's okay. You can refer me, but I will not be here. I will have moved to here. And her pivot was because she wanted more flexible time to pursue a few other things. And she's doing fantastically well. We're 27 days into the new year, and she's actually doing decently well. You see, the danger of not pivoting, the danger is not in pivoting. The danger is in pivoting from panic. You see, to shift, you must have thought through it, done some trisex testing, and then you move intentionally. Remember this young lady I've just mentioned? She had been trisexing another pattern, another set of businesses before she actually left where she was employed. Oh, yes, we have tested her service and her service is impeccable. Impeccable. Today she was picking something from me. She bought something for me yesterday that didn't fit well, so she was going to replace it. And she's like, this is the challenge, this is the style. I'm like, I don't like that one. And she went on looking and looking and looking until she found something I liked. So the shift into what she has moved into, because she's moved into errands and buying on behalf of people, has enabled her to increase higher customer satisfaction and retention, but it's also allowed her to enjoy things. But she's also learning. She said, deliveries to this kind of the world, side of the world, it's too far. So we're talking about, why don't you pick up one of the last mile delivery services like Pick Up Mtani? You're dropping in town office, they deliver to the person. Excuse me. So it's not rushed, it's not emotional, it is not uninformed, and it is not performative. You're not doing this to look cool. You are pivoting because where you are in the journey requires you to pivot. Every year there is something we change at AMC because we're informed by the data we've collected through the year, right? Number four, your instinct determines the quality of your decision. So if you're deciding from fatigue, from fear, from offense, comparison, financial pressure alone, these things will snooker you big time because there is something in your inner state that is distorted. You are panicking. How many of you know that you cannot do an exam when you're panicked? Pivoting is like taking an exam because you will have to look through the whole data set. What's working, what's not working, why is it working, why isn't it working, and go through all that and come to a place where you're making a decision based on pros and cons, neutral, what direction do you need to keep going? When tired, and most of us know this, when we're tired, we may not necessarily make the best decisions in life. When we are offended, we make even worse decisions. Because now I'm moving from the place of Selena has made me mad. Let me show her. And then you become blind to certain realities. When you're comparing yourself with others, you are already coming from, I am not good enough. Yet you could be doing fantastically well with what you're doing. So we must ensure that we're not making decisions from there, but we are coming from a quiet mind. We're coming from clarity that the fear we're addressing by this pivot is XYZ. We're separating facts and feelings. There is a place to apply your intuition, but that should not be applied blanket to everything. Let's look at the facts. Why isn't this particular product selling like it used to? Are there too many players? I'll give an example. For those who walk in town near a bus station, there are there's a whole line of stalls. They're all selling different things. But opposite them, there are all these shops for doing cheap nail work. And they stand on the outside and they say, anti-nails, anti-nails. Mia tano tu, 500 only. So if your criteria for doing your nails is how cheap it is, that would be for you. I am very finicky about hygiene, about who does my nails. Are they going to do builder? Will they just do gel polish? I have all those questions. So that means I will always go to the same person. And I am very loyal. By the time I move, it is a major thing that has made me move. You see, clarity is not found in desperate urgency. Sometimes you know that you know that you know that based on what you know, this is the time to shift. Other times, because this is a faith-based space, you have that unction of the spirit to move now. That's different. I'm not talking about that. But many times, clarity is found in a place of stillness and rest. You have sat, you have assessed, you have reviewed, you have referred, you have considered, you have prayed. And then you know this is the way, walk in it. There are times, even in that place of clarity, you don't know. Don't move. Remember, we said we're not going to move from a place of comparison and desperate rushing. If there is something wrong and you don't know, take time to reflect until you find the issue. You could talk to a mentor if you have a mentor or a coach. You could sit with your teams and ask them what you think is working. Get insight from multiple points. If you have a business partner, by all means, sit down together and have a conversation. But let us try not to choose from places of fatigue, fear, offense, comparison, or pure financial pressure. And the other one, that people say this is a once in a lifetime deal. If you don't invest now, it will never come back to you. Those ones. Pause. Absolutely pause. And why are we saying that? We're saying that because what we want is to make solid and sound decisions that will support the sustainability of our endeavors. So if you're still with me, we're beginning to wind down. Let me see an FG in the chat. And that simply talks about Founders Grid. Let me see an FG in the chat. Fantastic. All right. So let us proceed. Good stuff. Number one, think about what is the market reality? What's going on in the market? Are people still engaging, buying, or responding, even if they're doing it slowly? What's going on in the market? Or has the response stopped? Remember, we're making data-based decisions. Is the problem that you set up to solve still relevant or has it shifted? Why is this important? You need to understand if the problem is real or not. If it is real, then maybe refinement is the thing to do, not pivot. A realignment and adjustment is what you do. Pivoting means you are turning and going a completely different direction. So if the need is still real, then maybe the pivot is not necessary. It's a refinement, realignment, a readjustment, a reconfiguration. It is something that you change. All right. So you look at what your market is saying. You look at how mature your business model is or your revenue model is. Is it broken or underdeveloped? If it is broken, by all means, rebuild, break down and rebuild, restructure, whatever you need to do. If it is underdeveloped, then spend the time developing and refining it to meet the need. Have you tested everything? Pricing, messaging, delivery, distribution. Have you pushed it to its limit? When you look at your online ads, it asks you whether you want to do A/B testing. If you allow the platform to do that, they present your ad to two different audiences, and the most responsive is where they keep your ad, where they keep your messaging going. All right. You see, many of us pivot too early when what we should be doing is better positioning, sharper storytelling, improved systems, a deeper engagement with our customers, reassessing our teams and moving with them. There could be so many other things we need to do. But because we have not robustly tested our model, then we are pivoting too early. I'll give an example. In one of the other businesses I ran, I found that the model I had was faulty because we would deliver and it was an edible product and we would collect money later. And we began getting clients telling us, but we paid. So we look at within ourselves and ask who collected that money? No one collected it. So what did we begin doing? How did we shift our model? 75% deposit upfront. So that if you decide that you paid me, my costs are covered. All right. So what are the things you can do like that? I'll give another example. In my early days, before I went to campus, I was really interested in hairdressing. So I pursued the course. I got my diploma and I began working in a salon. In the salon, we got paid based on the number of services we offered, and after a deduction of cost. So if you do a retouch, you deduct the cost and then you split the money 60-40, 60 to owner, 40 to you, and with a base salary. And I did that, and the first month I earned like 4K, 5K, no, 4,000. Which salary was 3,000. So imagine I only made like 1,000 in commissions. But then I began to do manicures and pedicures, and I found that there we split the cost 60-40 straight up because how long does a nail polish last? We already pay for water it's in the bill. We already buy disinfectant for other things. So there were no deductions on the manicure and pedicure. I began to focus on manicures and pedicures. I got so good. My clients' nails became so amazing. So I was now able to earn 6, 7, 8,000 shillings a month. That is what we call model maturity. Initially, I just came in and I picked everybody's model. But then when I began reviewing, I'm like, if I shift this like this, kid or to just a bit, I'll be able to do better and earn more. But there was a lady who her standard salary was 14,000. Why? She had been there longest, so all the older clients went to her immediately. The other two of us were fresh out of college. So over time, of course, when you begin to show your prowess is how you gain your capacity to generate income. So shifting models. So we said number one is market reality. Number two is model maturity. Number three is personal alignment. Alignment. Does this work still align with my strength and my values? And if it doesn't align with my strengths, can I get help? Personal alignment means, am I energized by the improvement or am I just too tired and the thought of escape is a relief? I'll give a very personal story. What I've been doing this year, the last 2 weeks, is personal realignment. There is a lot on my desk, and sometimes the key critical things fall through the cracks. So, what have I done? I have gotten somebody who calls me on Monday. We plan the week, and every day I get a prompt. Have you done one, two, three? In fact, I have a critical activity I need to do straight after this because that is how I'm going to keep things going. Relief is not always clarity. Sometimes it's just exhaustion speaking. So again, what am I doing to keep myself in a place where I'm truly connected to the system and things are working? Those are the questions I must ask myself. Because maybe the escape I'm looking for is not what we need. Maybe I need to buckle down and I need to pivot, I need to persist, not to pivot. So, where am I in this whole thing? As the team leader, am I still set on the same principles, values, vision, and focus? Or have I lost interest? And if I have lost interest, why? So, remember, we said we should not pivot without reflection. This is why. Sometimes it's my personal circumstances. Maybe you're going through a difficult relationship at home and that's draining you. Maybe you have a family member who's unwell. Maybe you have lost something and you're in the process of grieving, and that has you out of alignment. So you may not necessarily need to pivot. Maybe you need to just stop and heal. Allow somebody to run the system as you step back so that then you come with a realistic mindset. So what signals say persist? Your customers exist even if growth is slow. Feedback suggests refinement, not rejection. Learning is compounding and your conviction remains steady after rest. These are just the top four that I like. You could find other signals to persist. Signals to pivot, top four that I like. The problem no longer resonates with users. Let's say it was resonant to your users that you are able to you stayed late and then suddenly now they want to come early in the morning. How does that work for you? How are you able to adjust? The market has fundamentally changed. Remember the examples of during the pandemic, how the market diametrically changed. There are sectors that closed down. And then your strengths are consistently misaligned and you can't find team members to with the strengths for that, or you maybe not be able to draw in the right capacity. Or progress requires force rather than focus and deep execution. These are some of the reasons you should pivot. Again, I say these are my top four. You could find others that would be reasons to pivot. The thing I want you to remember is that you must do this from a place of rest. So the signals to persist, customers exist. All right. Feedback shows refinement, not rejection. Learning is compounding, which means as you are there, you are growing and you're expanding, and your conviction remains steady after rest. Remember, we said let's not make these decisions from a space of stress, of fatigue, of burnout. I remember I closed a business once because of burnout. I was just done. Actually, more than one. I left a partnership because I was just tired. And then when I rested, I was like, that was a very silly move. Yeah, I said that to myself. So we pivot if the problem is no longer there, the market has fundamentally changed. We are consistently misaligned our strengths with what we're doing, and progress requires force rather than focus. So, how do we put it all together? We come back to reflection. So let's do this reflection as you prepare your questions to ask. So ask yourself, and this one's let me see if I can share them in the comment section so you can pick them up. But ask, what am I trying to force that may need patience? What am I trying to force that may need patience? What decision have I delayed because I fear being wrong? If I removed fear, what would wisdom suggest? I completely love that question. I asked myself that question in a different way. If I had nothing to lose, what would I do? All right. And what would persistent look like if it was healthy? And as you reflect through these, and these we will share them, as you reflect through this, the big question then becomes, how can I write that in one consistent statement? You may pick one question may resonate more than the other, so that becomes the question that you answer. And then can you write a clear sentence so that when you read it, you can say, this is where I'm at. So this requires a pivot or it requires persistence. So I'll give us a moment to answer, to think through those questions. What am I trying to force? We have a moment to answer that. When you are done, please put a DD in the chat and we can proceed. We're not looking for a full plan, just begin to answer them and then see how that goes for you. All right. We have another minute or so. And what we'll do for you is we'll put them in the comments in the chat so that you can pick them up and proceed with them. All right. Okay. So we have the questions. You can save them. They are there in the chat section as we wind down. So, how do we focus forward? We ask ourselves what changes next. So you make one informed adjustment, not a drastic, dramatic overhaul. We're looking for one informed adjustment. And then when you make that adjustment, you test the assumptions, test the assumptions attached to it. And then you recommit to reflection as a leadership discipline. So what we're looking to do is we're making moves one step at a time, number one. We are listing our assumptions, what we think is what is impacting us on that sector, and we're not assuming conclusions. And then we recommit to reflection. How does reflection help us? On a daily basis, you think through your day, what worked, what didn't work, what got done, what didn't get done, what am I carrying forward? I love that every evening I need to report to my support team to answer, these are the three things you do today. What's the progress on all of them? You know what happens when I have to do that? And I was laughing when we we're having our check-in this morning. I was now saying when I see the messages, I'm like, first of all, I cross-check myself before I go there to answer. What has happened for me is that if I have tasks unfinished by the end of the day, because I know I will need to check in tomorrow morning, it pushes me to stay up. And now see Joe is laughing at me. And I do this, the same thing with Joe. When I know I've got pending tasks, I know an upcoming meeting gives me pressure. Why is that important? It keeps me moving because we don't lose our way by choosing wrong once. We lose our way by refusing to choose at all or delaying critical, very critical decisions. And just found us, it is all human beings, it is all leaders, it is all employees. We don't get, we don't fall off the we don't fall off the bus because of one decision. We fall off the bus because of a series of decisions. So as you go forward, pivot or persist, whichever it needs to be, but make sure that whichever choice you pick, you are picking from clarity, not confusion. You are picking from clarity, not confusion. So I'm open to questions before I hand the floor to my co host for the day, my hope. Yes. So does anybody have a question or a reflection of something that has shifted for you? Questions or reflections?
Hi, Chasubira. Miriam here.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. I
Mhm.
think when I'm looking at it, it feels like pruning. You die or you're pruned. Pick one. In the sense that either way, you're getting cut. But now, what's your cut? Is your cut towards growth, change, something new?
Mhm.
Or are you willing to persist, feel the pain for now, and then see it? But I think what I like is that point of deciding from clarity, not confusion. It's not
Mhm.
it's not moving from pressure of everyone outside or pressure internally, which causes then the confusion that is there because you're like internally you're feeling one thing, externally there's one thing. But to
Mhm.
be clear, to take affirmative responsibility for our decision. You're not coming to what do you think? Should
Mhm.
I? It's
Mhm.
I have decided to
Mhm.
pivot. Okay, so I'm ready for the pains that will come with that and the successes, or I have decided to
Mhm.
persist. And much as I'll cry or celebrate, I have decided.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, it's a good push. It's like being on the ledge when guys do bungee jumping. You're told the floor is falling, whether you like it or not. The floor is coming down and you're going down. So I remember the meme for wait a minute, let me tell you something, let me tell you. I feel that's where we are at, but we have to decide because come 3, 2, 1, you're going to be in the air either with your eyes opened or your eyes closed to see to see the jump. So I think I am choosing to decide from clarity. I'm not sure which one, but to own my decision and to do it from clarity, not confusion from external forces or a lack of rest, which makes us be unsober. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. And please remember both are okay. It's okay to pivot and persist. You just need to ensure that you're doing it from clarity and not confusion. I can see takeouts is make the decision from a place of rest and quit trying to please or perform for people. That is powerful. I want to use that last one as a clarion call. When God designed you, He designed you very specifically. Those of you who are regulars know me and my Jeremiah 1:5. Go and read it for those of you who are new. But He says, before I knit in your mother's womb, I knew you, I ordained you, I called you prophet to the nations. So when you come here, I love how Dr. Cindy Trim puts it. She says, you come fully loaded. Everything you need for life is already written into you. That is number one. But the second one that I love to think about is because I am fully loaded, there is a pattern designed for me. In fact, I think it was yesterday or the day. Yesterday, I put up a TikTok that said, learn your patterns. There is a way God has designed for you to live, and then live by those patterns. How is that helpful? What is good for Julia may not be good for Chesubire or Ian or Felix. But if each of us, and that's why this community is so important, if each of us function in our place of pattern, what happens is Miriam becomes adjoined to Julia, Julia is adjoined to Ian, Ian is adjoined to Joe, like that. So every joint supplies because Christ is the head. All right. So think about it like that. Your choices do not just impact you, they impact your capacity to be a fully supplying joint. Now, when my joint of teaching checks in, if I show up unprepared, haphazard on Tuesday, 15 to 20 people don't have their direction for the week, which means as Chesubire, what must I give up to invest in this pattern? Are there relationships he has told me to get out of that I am still in? Are there communities I have an instruction to get into that have been too scared to enter? So the expansion of my mind to a bigger place to draw a greater capacity is limited so that the community will suffer. Has Ian grown enough? Has Rose become the fullness so that when we sit together round the table, each of us has brought something and we come out, all of us, better? We come out better. That is why relief is not always clarity. Because maybe me moving from here to there, I'll be out of place and out of turn with my personal assignment. All right. So let me leave it there. I see the comment relief is not always clarity. Sometimes it is exhaustion speaking. So in this space, we propose and we believe that rest is important. If it is your Sunday off, take it off. If it's another day of the week, take it off. And we talk about the 7 kinds of rest. I will give you that as your homework. Go and study the 7 kinds of rest and figure out which one is missing. Sleep and physical rest is only one. There are 6 others. Sometimes the best way to rest is to disconnect from your normal routine and go and do something else. Last week, those of you who are here know I was at a conference. My mind came back reframed and at high energy because I rested off my daily work by doing something different. I also saw things that I should never do by serving there. In that role, I was not team lead, I was worker. And I saw my team leads have to have some very difficult conversations, but those conversations shifted how the ministry works. So we've even gone a step further and changed the ministry structure by having difficult conversations. Then I was just glad I could say, my day's work is done. As you guys continue meeting, I can go to bed. So understand that whether you pivot or persist, you must decide from a place of rest, from a place of clarity and conviction, not for confusion. And with that, let me turn it over to Joe.